Welcome back. We are continuing with more candidates. These two candidates now, I welcome them for District 2. And I want to give each candidate 30 seconds. Introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for the board. I'll start with you, Xochitl.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Colorado Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, El Semanario, and CBS 4 News. My name is Xochitl Gaytan. I'm running for Denver School Board in District 2, Southwest Denver, a multicultural community, very diverse nonprofit sector, very diverse business community as well. I'm running because I want to ensure that we move DPS on the right track. We veered off. We need to get back on the right track. Look at ensuring that we're providing the wraparound services that are greatly needed right now for every student in every school building, especially supports and services for our teachers, our paras, nutrition services workers, all working families within DPS, because they are the ones that are providing a quality learning environment that is deeply needed right now in DPS. I am a DPS parent. I live and work in my community. I'm a 19-year veteran in real estate. I'm a businesswoman. I graduated from DPS, Lincoln High School in Southwest Denver, and I want to ensure that we're providing that quality learning environment that our students deserve. Please, to read more, go to my website, gaytanfordps.com. Again, that's gaytanfordps.com. Thank you.
Xochitl, thank you. Karolina?
Good evening. My name is Karolina Villagrana, and thank you all for having me here tonight. When I think about why I'm running, I think about my parents who immigrated from Zacatecas, Mexico. And I think about the experience that my mom had when she first enrolled my oldest brother into school. What should have been met with a day of excitement was actually experienced otherwise. Just because we spoke Spanish at home, my brother was automatically enrolled in a bilingual classroom. The issue was that they never asked my mom for permission. Further, when she went to go see what was happening in the classroom, she saw a vast difference of quality of education between that of the bilingual classroom and that of the English classroom. Two of those things remain to be true today. One, our parents' and loved ones' voices are not heard, and there is an equity of education that's happening in this space. I want to bring my own personal experience, such as the time when I stepped into the classroom of what I anticipated being a classroom of 200 students. Actually was an auditorium, and I was shocked to see that there was no one that looked like me, leaving me wondering what was happening to our kids. It is why I became a teacher, and teaching from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade, and I hope to bring my experience to really making sure our kids receive the quality of education each and every single day.
Xochitl and Karolina, thank you very much, and very nice meeting you. The first question will come from my colleague, Jesus Sanchez Melean.
Hi, Mrs. Gaytan. Can you please describe your understanding of the educational civil rights of English language learner and provide one example of implementing a successful program for this student that represents in your district 48% of the student of the district number 2?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jesus, for the question. In District 2, Southwest Denver, again, we are a very multiculturally diverse student body, including our Latino, Mexicano, Chicano community, of which I'm from. I personally was raised as a Mexican immigrant. I came to this country as a little girl. So I understand the needs of our immigrant community, our refugee communities, especially our Spanish-speaking community. I'm fully bilingual in Spanish. Don't I wish the DPS would have provided those services, those English as a second language services to me as a little girl. They are doing their best right now with the consent decree that we have in place. And we have a modified consent decree, which I agree with, and I hope that we can reinforce and reinvigorate that consent decree across the district because it's greatly needed. We need to be able to allocate certain funding into classrooms, decrease the classroom size so that we're able to provide more bilingual literacy programs throughout Southwest Denver. That is a great need of ours, but we can't do that unless we have the funding in place to be able to provide those services to our students across the district.
The next question for Karolina will come from my colleague, Fernando Sergio.
Thank you, Michelle. Carolina, how would you hold schools accountable for providing quality education to all students? And you have underlined your experience in terms of bilingual education and English-only education. So I'd like you to focus on those students who take English as a second language and whose parents, unfortunately, cannot engage directly because they do not speak English?
Thank you so much for that question. When I think about what it means to really truly serve our community, especially our multilingual community, I think of first and foremost the consent decree. It is the most basic piece of equity that we could provide our students and families. The consent decree guarantees that our children have access to content and instruction every single day, while also providing the additional supports for them to expand on their language proficiency. As a teacher, I myself, who taught students who spoke Spanish in the household and whose parents only spoke Spanish, there were certain avenues that I did to making sure to support them and making in collaboration. One, as a teacher, I needed to make sure that I understood where my students were and what that meant for modifications within instruction, while also making sure that I had the rigor to make sure that they were making progress. As a teacher and myself as well, it was really important to remind myself of what it felt like when my parents couldn't connect with the contents, and what I could do as a teacher was hosting weekend workshops. And so that's what I really committed with families, of teaching what I was teaching their kid for the semester in Spanish and what were the tools and strategies. So I'm still very committed to making sure we have that partnership. And as an assistant principal, it was my job to making sure that teachers really understood what the language progression meant in progressing with English, and understanding what instructional strategies were, and making sure that the lessons support our kids each and every single day. And I'm still committed to that same thing.
We've been talking a lot about equity tonight. And Xochitl, I want to ask you, building a world-class equitable city, it starts with equity in education. What are your ideas for moving DPS further in that direction?
Equity begins when we're looking at our most vulnerable, most underserved populations. We really need to, again, take a look at the budget, the line items. Are we really serving our students and our teachers in the way that they need? Are we meeting the needs of those underserved populations? So looking at the budget and ensuring that we're allocating funds from a very top-heavy administration, moving those funds directly into the classroom so that we're providing the resources that our teachers are in great need of right now. We're in need of, we have a substitute shortage. So let's take a look at what those resources are going to be for teachers, ensuring that we have mental health supports right now in need. We're returning to in-person learning. Our students are in great need of some of those mental health supports, so socio-emotional supports, and those wraparound services for families as well. So that would be something that I would ensure that we're working towards immediately when I get to that seat.
In sticking with that mental health theme, how would you guide the district, Karolina, in balancing students' academic needs and mental health needs? This was really brought into the spotlight in just the last year and a half due to COVID. And how would you ensure that resources are there to address both?
I think mental health resources are essential to every day, even before the pandemic. As a teacher, it was something that I needed to make sure that my students were fully prepared to be in this space to learn. And that meant, as an educator myself, I need to have the tools to making sure that my students felt in a space where they were comfortable and felt safe. So there would be one piece of making sure that our teachers are equipped with that first social emotional supports, and making sure that our students have that access. But there's also this extension and making sure that our educators could still focus on academics, and we could supplement by partnering with organizations. What I mean by that is, as an assistant principal, my job was to fully develop educators in instruction, and at the same time, I really need to make sure my students were taken care of. For example, there was a day where one of my students was facing homelessness, and it's an area that I do not have necessarily the expertise or the training, but it was very helpful to have counselors on site to be able to provide that support and services. And so I want to make sure that our budget truly exemplifies what we value and what we say here today.
Xochitl, I want to ask you, how have you or plan to develop community partnerships that have contributed to academic success?
Absolutely, we need to be looking at developing partnerships outside of the school buildings. I personally have been endorsed by several business partners already and several legislators that believe in the vision of community partnerships, not only with the nonprofit sector, but also the business community. We need to be able to join in with, for example, Chairman Gil Cisneros, who is with the Chamber of the Americas, with CEO Robert Alvarado of Alvarado Holdings, who agree with the vision that we need to be able to provide some partnerships for middle school and high school students to have for example, some internships to be able to go and do some work with different businesses so that they can gain the experience as they're learning, and they can make a decision on whether or not they want to go to higher education, they want to go to a university, college, trade school, or vocational school. And those are the services that we need to be able to provide our middle school and high school students to help them move in that direction.
I want to ask you the same question, Karolina. How have you or plan to develop community partnerships that have contributed to academic success?
You know, one of the things that I really focus on as an instructional coach and assistant principal is really making sure that our families have access and the right information. So I'd first start off there and making sure bringing in outside organizations that really give the pathways of what our opportunities our students have access to. And the second thing is Southwest Denver has beautiful organizations, and there's opportunities to tap into those organizations such as 3 Arts in Lakesh, who are constantly present and doing amazing work. And I also want to say I'm willing and ready and have done the work to do it myself with this past year of the pandemic, where I myself did Libros en el Parque, Books in the Park, where I did bilingual reading for our little ones who needed that in-person reading, but also the ability to socialize in a safe manner.
I want to thank you both for joining us tonight, Xochitl Gaytan and Karolina Villagrana. It was very nice meeting you and talking with you. Thank you.